So Izuku is still talking to the Vestiges in the Vestige world, and we're getting more insight into a few things, especially All For One's supposed master plan, and also the reason why the second and third users are like facing the wall. So let's get into it. The title of the chapter is Midoriya, Izuku, and Shigaraki Tomura. The chapter started with Nana asking Deku if he can kill Shigaraki or not. This is coming off of the end of the previous chapter that was like the cliffhanger. Deku was surprised to hear the question, and Nana explained that it's not that she asked him to kill Shigaraki, she only wanted to know Deku's resolution. Nana said she sympathized with Deku's feeling where he thought Shigaraki looked like someone who was asking for help. Pretty sure they're referring to like the ending of the war arc here when Deku and Shigaraki / All For One are like parting ways for like the final time. And Izuku like looks at him and says like, you look like someone who needed help, or in this case, asking for help. And this has kind of been like a recurring thing so far because like Izuku says this to Bakugo in the first chapter, like when he's like captured by the sludge villain. Banjo, the fifth user, explained that although they see that Shigaraki looked like someone who is suffering and might need help, he didn't seem like he was asking for help. Even in that situation, Banjo only saw hatred in Shigaraki's eyes. The first user explained that he was raised that way by All For One, so All For One can take over his body and use it to take one for all. Wow, so it's finally been just straight out said at this point. I've been speculating about this for months, that this was All For One's ultimate goal. I even made an entire video dedicated to it. You can check it out right here. But it's pretty nice to get some confirmation on this, because if you do go back throughout the story, you can see the building blocks for this, and it's pretty cool how Horikoshi has laid it out. I'll talk more about what All For One possibly did to set this all up initially in tomorrow's video, but for now they go more into like what's exactly going on with this plan here. Banjo explained that All For One had failed twice to take one for all. First time was with himself, and the second time was with the sixth user named N, which means smoke. So that's pretty interesting. The sixth user's name reveal here, which is N, aka smoke, I guess, and that could be giving us some insight into what his quirk is. I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but a smoke quirk would be kind of weird, right? It's certainly different, adds more versatility to Izuku's arsenal, I suppose. You know, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's obviously not confirmed that he has some kind of smoke quirk here, but with this name, you know, you kind of only think one thing. The other interesting thing here is Banjo saying that All For One had only failed twice in taking one for all, and the first time was with him, the fifth user. I guess given the information that we got in the last chapter, this kind of makes sense, because Shinomori, the fourth user, said that, you know, he took like 18 years or something to like cultivate the power stockpiler aspect of One For All and made it like pretty powerful. So I guess only after that point All For One became interested in the One For All quirk itself, or just taking it for himself. Since One For All's principle is One For All can only be controlled using the user's will. Also, the origin of One For All is that they won't yield to All For One. In order to force One For All to surrender, All For One needs a will that is stronger than One For All itself, and All For One might be using Shigaraki's strong hatred for that. All right, so there we go. That's like the big crux of this plan. That's why All For One needs Shigaraki and essentially just can't do it himself, because I guess he figured out that you need a will that is stronger than One For All itself. Don't know how that works, but hey, All For One knows a lot more than we do. I mean, as we've seen, he's a pretty educated individual, especially within the lore and knowledge of this universe. And I guess he also came to the conclusion that he himself wasn't able to manifest a will stronger than All For One, so he needed to do it through a third party. The first user explained that the objective of One For All is the power to defeat All For One, or so they assumed. All Might seemed to have accomplished that job, but All For One came back. Nana then explained that Shigaraki is her grandson, and she separated herself from him in order to fight All For One. She felt horrible for pushing the responsibility of the failing adults to a 16-year-old Deku. I mean, hey, that's just shown in manga. But if Shigaraki became the complete monster, no one would be able to stop him. And I think in this sequence, when they say complete monster, we see like a vision of Shigaraki with like full butterfly wings. Pretty sure this is playing off of like before the war arc starts, when we see Yujiko talking about Shigaraki. He's like, some kind of like creature-esque version of himself coming out of like a cocoon, and he has like the wings. So I guess that just means like he's completed his full metamorphosis at this point. And in theory, no one would be able to stop him, since he would have the perfect hardware at that point to support the software of All for One. Nana also explained that in this world, there are people who you won't be able to understand no matter how hard you try. Hey, tell me about it. And there are people who are beyond saving. So she wanted to know if, although that person looked like they're asking for help, but it's not someone you can help, will Deku be prepared to stop him even if he had to kill him? So this might be giving us some more insight into the end game of the series. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure we all assume at this point that it's going to come down to, at some point, Izuku fighting Shigaraki. Not necessarily saying that's going to be the final battle, because at this point it's up in the air. Maybe All for One is the final battle. I don't know, but they're going to fight at some point. And I guess this is pointing out that, like, even if Shigaraki is inherently innocent, because he is, like, you know, he was a victim of circumstance with him being a part of all the All for One scheme and all that stuff. But even then, you could just be broken beyond repair, like with Shigaraki. Like, he's really damaged, and it's like, it's very unlikely that he's just gonna have a hard 180 face turn, you know? And it's like, even though he is technically somebody who should be saved, he may not be asking for the help, and at that point you may have to like put him down. Izuku explained that when he and Shigaraki were in the Vestige, although he felt such strong hatred in the deepest place of Shigaraki's consciousness, he felt like he saw a kid crying. Deku continued to explain that he had fought many villains, but in the end he could only fight to stop them and not save them. If he knew why they became villains, the result of the fight might be different. So I guess he's saying here, like, if I had more insight into them, I could have talked no jutsu'd them better. Deku then said that he had learned from All Might that one for all is not the power to kill, but the power to save/help. Deku then continued to explain his reasonings, and the first user and Nana looked satisfied with his answer. So yeah, going back to what I've said in my previous video for chapter 304, I pretty much expected Izuku to say something along these lines in response to what Nana requested. The panel showed Nana crying and told Deku to send Gran Torino her regards once he woke up. The first user then said to the second and third user, who are still facing the wall, to let it go and start cooperating with Deku so they can unlock the full power of One for All, implying that the reason they are facing the wall is because they haven't acknowledged Deku as the current wielder. End of chapter. So, okay, that's super interesting. They're facing the wall because they don't recognize Izuku as the current wielder. Therefore, they're restricting him from receiving their quirks. I mean, that's super childish of them, right? To like face the wall because like they don't accept him. So maybe now this is Horikoshi throwing a wrench in that, saying that like, hey, they just don't accept him. Stop, you know, coming up with theories. You haven't figured anything out. These guys are just having a mild temper tantrum or something. And also this could mean that maybe they have like super powerful quirks or something, and they're like, yeah, he can't have our power, or he's not as cool as us. I don't know, but wow, so much to speculate with this stuff. Can't wait for the full translations. But let me know what you think about the second and third user in the comments. What do you think about All for One's master plan? If you liked the video, guys, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.